We got about 20.
Oh, did you say? I'm sorry. Did you say 20?
He did.
Holy shit! Oh my god! Let's do it.
The Dorkening and all affiliated shows are not intended for anyone under the age of 18. The following may contain discussions or scenes that have adult situations, graphic violence, nudity, strong sexual content, and graphic language. This show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. There's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
Greetings, Spice fans! Silk City Hot Sauce is now sponsoring the Dorkening Podcast Network. Our craft sauces are made in Vermont in small, high-quality batches using locally sourced, farm-grown ingredients. Silk City Hot Sauce comes in a variety of heat strengths and killer flavors like Jezebel, Erotic Fever, Mango Madness, and Good Morning Jonestown. And don't forget our newest creation, Hot Syrup. Make no mistake, Spice fans, this is the queen of sweet heat. There's new and unique flavors coming out all the time. Best of all, right now, listeners of the Dorkening Podcast Network can go to silkcityhotsauce.com and use coupon code DORK. Not only will you get 20% off your order, we'll also throw in a free bottle of hot sauce. That's silkcityhotsauce.com. Coupon code DORK.
Hey, happy Tuesday, everybody. You are watching Splash Pages, the comic book club. Tonight, we're going to be talking about Boba Fett. It's going to be a kick-ass episode. And with us, as always, Velvet Joker. How's it going, bud?
May the Force be with you. This is the way.
Drew, how's it going, bud?
Star Wars, nothing but Star Wars, nothing but Star Wars. That's all they are. I'm good.
You keep that up. We can bring the holiday special back.
There are some things that need to stay at the bottom of the Sarlacc pit.
Yeah, I know we're going to be talking about Boba tonight. But what do you guys want to kick off first? Do you want to talk about some geek stuff that's going on, or
Love and Peacemaker.
I'm sorry, I'm still really behind. I need to. I haven't seen that. I hear it's great. I mean, faith in James Gunn, obviously, with the Peacemaker. Although I am very excited to see more people doing the Peacemaker dance. I will tell you that. I've seen that. That is fantastic.
Now, Drew, I have to bring this up since you just brought up the dance.
Yes.
There was an article on let's say an opposing company to your company, and they did an article about the dance.
Okay.
And in the article, it actually said, now Screen Rant is going to go and do this 5 seconds later while dissing us at the same time. What do you have to say about that?
I can neither confirm nor deny that there has been any sort of return or retaliation to this. I do understand that the internet is full of a lot of trolls without a bridge.
Right.
And as a representative, I have no comment except Baba Booey, Baba Booey, Baba Booey. Thank you.
Thank you.
Facebook user says nothing but Star Wars except the obvious Superman shirt you're wearing. LOL. And Darren Miller's in the house. Hey, Darren says, smoke some cannabis, fellas. Does a body good. Thank you for joining tonight.
I'll keep that in mind.
There's a video out there. Apparently, John Cena could not make one of the test recordings for the dance, and Alan Tudyk stood in for him.
I did.
Yes,
I did hear that.
He is the husband of the dance lady.
The choreographer?
The dance lady. Thank you, the choreographer.
He's so awesome. I caught the new episode of Resident Alien.
How is that? I haven't watched any of it. Is it good?
I finally watched the first 2 episodes. It was fun. Much better than I thought it was going to be. That's for sure.
Well, I mean, it's Alan Tudyk. He just has this level of manic hilarity that it's just so, it can be so over the top, but yet still very grounded. And it, like, the premise alone is just fantastic. You know,
it reminds me a lot of Men in Black, Kingpin there.
Men in Black, Kingpin?
The actor who played Kingpin, who's in Men in Black.
Vincent D'Onofrio.
Vincent D'Onofrio?
Yeah. The Igor suit. You know?
Oh, right.
Yeah, because, you know, Alan Tudyk he's actually an alien, but everybody sees him as a human, except for like this one kid that can see him as an alien. And just like his mannerisms and everything, just like, you know, it just reminds me a lot about that. He does an amazing job acting that.
Edgar, your skin's hanging off of your bones. Oh, yeah.
But Leo, now circling back to the John Cena show Peacemaker, I was reading. I thought it was really interesting that the actor that plays Vigilante was recast after the 5th episode.
Really?
It was totally a different actor with a different build and everything. So they had to reshoot all his scenes again.
So they kind of did the Shrek thing. It's like, oh, we already recorded dialogue. And then I'm just going to say to do a Scottish accent. Now we have to spend another $1 million just to re-record because you had an epiphany. I mean, it was the right choice, but still, like,
yeah.
Really?
I mean, the word is that he left amicably, but out of only 8 shows and you did 5 and you couldn't spit out the last 3, there has to be something behind the scenes that we don't know.
Absolutely. And considering this, the nerd world, eventually they'll shut a light on it. So we'll probably find out. I give it about 2-3 weeks, maybe a month. We'll find out.
Because the guy who's playing it now is brilliant. So I can't imagine another actor doing a different perception of this character.
That scene when they're going after the first.
I remember Drew hasn't seen it.
Thank you. Thank you, Rich. Thank you so much.
Generalize as much as you can.
Okay.
I'll
I'll try my best, but just his absolute joy with the one scene where John Cena couldn't do his job.
Yes.
And
Yes.
he shows up. Okay.
Yes.
And just his joy in performing that job was just
absolutely. Yes, I feel you. And everyone who has seen the show understands exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yes, beautiful. Yeah.
Absolutely love the show. I think I'm an episode or two behind.
Okay.
So,
well, if you haven't seen the jail scene yet, is another brilliant scene with our friend Vigilante. And again, Drew, I'm ruining nothing for you by just totally generalizing.
No, that's fine. You just do whatever you got to do. I'll just.
Yeah. I respect you.
I appreciate that, and I respect you as well. Even when you're wrong, I'm like, that's his opinion. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Absolutely.
YouTube did spoil this week's episode of Superman and Lois for me, though.
Well, Leo,
I'm not going to say
what better.
That's YouTube. I know. But is my queue ready to watch episode 3? I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, but they do bring in another major Superman character.
Okay.
Yeah. But
how many episodes are we into the new season, Leo? Because I haven't watched any of the new season.
3.
Really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. This week's going to be episode 4.
Okay. Can I actually discuss just briefly something I heard in the news, and I'm kind of like really about it. So I heard that they contracted Grant Gustin to do another season of The Flash, and I got to be honest with you, with all due respect to Grant, who's still doing a pretty decent job as Barry Allen. Like, we just gotta like who is watching still? Like, that's my question.
I haven't watched it in so long. I haven't watched it.
Seasons. It's the same way I felt about like Walking Dead. Like when they were like, "Oh, we're finally in season," I was like, "This show's still on. People are still watching it."
Well, Walking Dead it took a huge crash, and then they changed. Like, the previous showrunner fucked things up. They changed showrunners, and she's drastically trying to bring it back. The last couple seasons were really good, but I agree with you. Like, everybody dropped off with Flash. I heard that he only renewed to do it ad hoc and a season at a time rather than doing like 5, renewing for 5 seasons.
Right.
So he's bringing in more money, but has said, we're just going to do it a season at a time. But I agree with you. Who the hell's watching, CW?
Right.
Wasn't there even talk that they were going to sell off the CW media?
Yeah. It's just no longer like CW has, in my opinion, just kind of run its course. All superhero television has their heyday. You know what I mean? Like, there was a time when superhero TV was just Smallville. Yeah. And it's fine. There were things that worked in Smallville. There are things that didn't work in Smallville. And we wouldn't have the CW without Smallville. We wouldn't. It's just you got to give credit where credit's due. But like, I saw clips of, I think, their crossover with like Black Lightning and a bunch of other characters, and I was just like, this is just a mess.
Yeah.
And on top of it, they tried playing off Despero is a good guy from the future. I was like, oh man, we have, like, for me, the last thing I really thought was amazing in the CW was Crisis. Like, what a fantastic crossover. I mean, admittedly, in terms of content, I think Elseworlds was still my favorite, but I appreciate the scope and the dedication to that magnitude with Crisis, bringing everything together, which I think was great, because the whole alternate Earths thing, I mean, it's a cute idea, but after a while you're like, can we, like, especially if you just keep coming over to the one universe, I was like, can we just combine them, please? Let's just, instead of, let's just put the sandbox together. So personally, I still don't care. The only show I was even remotely considering catching up is Stargirl and possibly Legends, because I always thought Legends was the funnier and more authentically comic book of the stories, but that's just me. Stargirl, definitely. I have to catch up to that. But
I did finish that second season of Stargirl, and
it was good.
I was really surprised, mostly because it seems like it's more of like a teeny bopper type of show, but they have enough DC Easter eggs to keep me in there.
Right.
And I thought that the Eclipso was an awesome character as the bad guy this season.
And of course, I don't think it would really surprise anybody, that one of the things that I'm definitely want to catch up to in the second season. First, I stopped watching mid first season because, admittedly, to me, the first season was a little rough. It picked up from what I saw, but the first 2 episodes I was like, wow, this is, has some Arrow season 4 level writing here. This is just cringe.
Wait, they made a season 4 of Arrow?
No, yes, they did. But going on, I think one of the things that I appreciate is that James Robinson, who, was the guy who introduced Jack Knight Starman, and was one of the people who had an issue where he passed along the mantle to Courtney. He's one of the writers in the show. And I thought, to me, I was like, wow, that's awesome, because it's showing, hi, we want to keep true to the roots. We'll have a comic writer who, knows the characters fairly well. And then, of course, Jeff Johns is supervising it because, Courtney is his character. It's based on his sister. For me, I saw clips, like Leo, YouTube can't help, and my curiosity gets the better of me. I did see 1 or 2 clips where I saw Shade, and I was just like, yes, because Shade is such a big part of James Robinson's Starman series. I saw him, the way they did the powers, his look, even the way he talked. I was like, you know what? You did good. This is, I can see, this is a Victorian immortal here,
Yeah, and it helped right around the same time as when we did that Shade miniseries, which was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was trying to tie everything in.
Just backtrack. Is that a show coming out, or is that something that already came out?
Which one? Stargirl?
Yeah. No. I mean the episode with Shade.
Yeah, that already happened. It was part of the fight against Eclipso.
Okay.
Yeah,
so I have not watched Stargirl at all.
Okay.
It's definitely worth checking into. It does get a little teen drama. There are certain characterizations, personally, that I'm not a fan of, that I'm going to give a better shot. And again, it's not the actor's fault. They are doing the best they can. It's really, I put more of the blame on the writing. Obviously, if we have a conversation about that, I'll make those criticisms known. We don't have time to do that here. So back to my point, I think we should eventually mourn the death of the CW verse, and then welcome a new age of TV shows, kind of like the renaissance of Star Wars that we're seeing right now.
Well, with that being said, I think Superman and Lois should be the breaking point, because the way they've been developing that show,
Right.
it has almost no connection to the CW. They brought in Diggle for like 1 episode. Supergirl hasn't even made an appearance. But
Tyler Hoechlin's doing a pretty good job as Superman.
Oh, he's doing an amazing job. It's the show is awesome. It's definitely my I mean, all the other CW shows suck, but it's for a Superman show. It's really good, and I highly recommend anybody watch it.
All right. Thank you, Leo, for your suggestions.
Oh, you're welcome. But basically, yeah, I agree. They should just can the CW, move everything back to HBO, because I mean, like with CW right now, I don't have cable. So in order for me to watch it, I either have to watch it on their app, and it's pixelated as hell, or find ulterior methods to watch the show. When I'm paying for HBO, they should just have it on HBO. It goes on HBO eventually, but not anytime soon.
Yeah, right. HBO Max has pretty much everything DC on it at this point.
Yeah.
All the animation, all the movies.
Yep. Yeah, just move it over, make HBO, the DC hub for everything. Just kill the CW.
So is that our future HBO Max versus Disney Plus?
Yes. Yep.
To control the world. Them and Amazon, all three. There you go. The three powers.
And there is one comic news that I do kind of want to discuss because I find it, I hate to say it, a little cheap. I recently learned that they're doing a thing where they're going to kill about, I think, most of the Justice League soon in an upcoming DC storyline, leaving, I believe, what I heard is one survivor. And I'm kind of like, really? Because, and as a comic fan, and Rich, you've read more than enough comics, you can back me up in this. Death has not meant anything.
It means nothing anymore. I was thinking that exactly as you're saying this, but I'm going to shut up later.
No, my point is that ever since Superman died in 1993 and then came back, death has just been meaningless in comics. The only people who stay dead are regular people. Not like if you are a regular Joe and you die in the Marvel DC, you will stay dead. But if you have superpowers, there is a 50% chance we will see you return, your spirit, your doppelganger, your twin brother. Yeah, Daredevil, your twin brother. A clone. Thank you, Spider-Man.
Scroll version.
There you go. Scrolls. Time travel. A version of you from previous in time, which you can't tell that they're going to die. It's just so much.
Superman's dealing with that right now. His son John is from the future.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so you see, you're already proving my point, Leo.
Yeah,
but it's just, to me, it's just like, it's just something that I, as much as, and I try not to criticize, because the writers of Justice League are Brian Michael Bendis, who I've always been a fan, and then other writers and whatnot. But I'm like, if you're going to do death, it has to stick. You know what I mean? If people are going to be dead, they need to stay dead, and characters need to work their way around that. But, every major character in the Justice League has been dead and has managed to come back. Pretty much everyone. Let's just be real here. And it's true. And it's just, like, I just see that, and all I see is, hey, look, we're just going to have a bunch of commemorative covers, and people are going to buy this thinking it's some sort of collector's item, and then we're going to reboot to issue 1. And I'm like, that's the other thing. Like, how many issue 1s are there now? Like, I feel like everything is always like, even I think Spider-Man is hitting some sort of milestone recently. And
they're going back to number 1 with Amazing.
Exactly. So it's just like, now.
Could you imagine trying to put out a comic buyer's guide?
Yeah.
So many versions. Many versions.
Okay, explain this to me. When I was looking at listings of comics with Amazing Spider-Man, there was like a point where they were doing like 805.1, 805.2, or whatever it was. The numbering seemed all screwed up. And like, I know they rebooted Amazing back to number 1. Like 5 years ago?
I mean, they've been doing it. They've done it a lot, man. That's the thing. They always restart it, and then near the end or everything, then they're just going to go back to the original number. So it'll be issue 850, issue 900. Like again, it's just a bunch of sales ploys, and eventually, at some point, it's just how we feel about death. You just become numb to it. You're just like, I'm good.
So with Justice League killing off the main one, obviously Superman, because he's front and center on the cover. And it's issue 75. Isn't that the issue where they killed off Superman before? It was issue 75.
Yes. There is some symmetry there. Yes. Issue 75 was the issue by Dan Jurgens where Superman dies fighting Doomsday. Yes, you're right, Leo. Nicely done. Look at you studying your comic book history.
I try.
I know. And Yeah. But it's also so sad because it's funny because that's actually the issue that helped lead to the downfall of the comic book industry in the 90s. That's what popped that issue is what popped the sellers market.
Well, it was already.
Oh no, it was already crashing, but that's the
That
nail.
was like straw on the back. Yeah.
Yeah, because people would do what some people do with comics to get signed now. They would buy 10 issues and then they, eventually try to sell them back thinking that they make some sort of profit. And then it is like, oh, how much do I get for this? What you paid for it? $3.99.
Yep.
Oh,
not even that, it's
well, yeah. And it's so funny because you would think like, okay, if it was signed and whatnot, that it really doesn't add too much of a price. It really depends on who signed it, But I mean, Leo, I just want to say this before we get to that. I have never agreed on grading comics. I personally think it's a little ridiculous because then you're looking at a book like a collector's item. Now, don't get me wrong. Key significant issues, in my opinion, are collector's items. First appearances, significant storylines and whatnot, and especially if they're signed. Like, for instance, I own New Mutants 98, which is, as we know, is the issue that Deadpool debuts. And I have that signed by both Rob Liefeld and Fabian, and I'm sure I'm going to say this wrong, so I apologize, everybody, Niesha, okay, who are the creators. I've only read it once, and then it has remained in the plastic since then. That is a collector's item. That is a first appearance, But if someone wanted to read anything that I have and it's not super valuable, I'm like, sure, because they're comic books.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. Some people say, well, can't you give them a link online? I was like, yeah, but the thing being is it's about the feel, like holding a book.
Well, holding it, the smell of the paper, it's just there's something magical behind it.
I will say this though, I do have one rule. My rule is always very simple: wash your hands before you read any of my books. But that's just because, as we know, fingerprints,
greasy
hands,
Yep.
yeah, oils and whatnot.
And you got to hold it a certain way. You can't crease the bind.
Like it's so funny because I remember one time I loaned a friend a book, and I never loaned him something after this because he returned some books to me, and one of the covers was ripped, and it was one of those where I started to explain to him. I was like, if this was somebody who didn't get it, I'd still be mad, but it's fine. You're a fan. How do you not respect someone else's books? And then he just kind of like brushed it off, and I was like, you know what? Fine. And I got myself a replacement. I never loaned him something again. Point is, when someone loans you something, take care of it. It's someone else's stuff.
Oh, hell yeah.
So
I agree with you on grading. There's a couple books I have that, I want to get graded, but I hear some horror stories sometimes, and then the charge, it's like I found I have I don't know how I picked it up. I picked it up at Sarge's Comics, local shop here. I got it in the 90s, but it's the first appearance of Doom Patrol.
Nice.
Yeah, it was in Suicide Squad.
And that's the original Doom Patrol, right?
Yeah, it was in an issue of Suicide Squad.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a good find.
Yeah. I paid $30 back in had to be, I think, while I was still in school, so like 91, 92.
Actually, Rich, you would appreciate this story, and then we'll get to Boba Fett, because other than that, this just becomes a nostalgia fest, which our fans are used to, but still. Rich, a friend of mine tipped me off to this guy he used to own a comic shop, and he lost the store, so he kept all his books in storage. And my friend let me know that he was interested. He was basically whatever you could carry, you could take. So naturally, these are the kind of things where you're diamond in the roughs. So I spent like 3 hours breathing in. As you know, old comics have a very pungent smell. if you've ever worked in a comic shop, you know this. After a while, sitting in long boxes, they smell. I found two things, with both which I think you'd appreciate. I found a copy of Spawn Batman signed by Frank Miller.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I was really impressed with that. The second one is something, Rich, you would appreciate. I found multiple copies of Batman Adventures issue 12, which, Leo, if you don't know, that's the first appearance of Harley Quinn in comics.
Yeah, his face lit up.
Yeah.
Yeah, multiple copies. Nice.
I found like 7, and in
Nice.
really good condition. So, and again, I asked him, I was like, this counts, right? Because you know what I mean? Like, I'm not a douchebag. I'm not gonna,
Mhm.
And I asked him, he's like, yeah. He's like, whatever you want to take, you take. And I was just like, okay, cool. It's gonna. Although, Rich, you would appreciate this. I only have, I think, 2 copies left, and I made a habit of giving it to Harley cosplayers I knew as like a birthday, or one I gave as a wedding present. And my friend told me, he said when she saw it, she's bawled. I was like, well, she's a Harley. This is like the ultimate gift, right?
Yeah.
And someone was like, why would you give this away? This is like, a significant issue. I was like, because it doesn't mean as much to me as it would mean to you. It'd be like, Rich, if I found like the first appearance of the Joker and I gave that to you, you would be blown away, because it's, I haven't seen one yet, but if I find it, it's yours. It's like I said, I feel like if it means something to somebody, that's different. Like, I mean, if I found like the first issue of Star Wars 1970 or 1980 or whenever that was, I would be like, okay, here you go, Leo. And you just like, oh, dear God. It's like,
Drew, I would probably frame that. I wouldn't send it out to be graded. I would probably put it in plastic, seal it up, and just frame it and put it on the wall. Just look at it.
Right. And it's funny because, I mean, again, you both know this. I have a huge collection, and most of it's signed. And I've always kind of wondered, like, what would you ever get framed? You know what I mean? Like what would you frame if you had a comic book in your collection and you were like, fuck it, I'm going to frame one book. What would it be in your mind?
For me, actually, it'll be about the book we're talking about tonight.
Oh, it would?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Really?
Do you own that one, Leo, or?
I own 2 copies.
Yeah, he does. Look at
Star Wars 81.
Star Wars 81. I have the copy that somebody gave me when I was in grade school. It's all torn to pieces because I read it so many times. And then I have a mint copy that I was going to have Palmer sign.
Okay.
But he left early when he was at Terrificon.
Oh, that sucks.
But,
he's a nice guy. I've met him.
Yeah.
I hope you get that chance again, because I know you would be like, okay, cool. Like I could just see it now. You would be how I felt with some books. I was like, okay, thank you. Just slide right in.
It's actually a funny. We'll talk about when we get to it. But yeah,
that one. What about you, Rich?
I don't know. Well, definitely that Joker #1. Absolutely. Hulk 181.
Nice.
I had a giant poster of that when I had the Geek Theme Bagel Shop. And
which one is that again?
That's the Wolverine. Wendigo, Wolverine.
Right. The first appearance.
And the Hulk 181. Yeah. Technically, he was actually in 180 in the last scene or the last frame or two.
It's always an arm or a silhouette.
Right. But 181's the one that it's known for and has the value. And I always loved that book. And similar to Leo, I actually had it in summer camp back in the day when I was just a little Joker, and tore it to pieces. It got torn to pieces. Of course, never knowing what the value of that would eventually become.
Of course. And I know what mine would be, because out of all of them, and I said, when I was a kid, similar to you guys, my mom would occasionally buy me comics, and one of them that she bought me, and I still remember this, was the first appearance of Venom. And this was, you know, and this was like, again, when Venom attacked Spider-Man. So it wasn't, you know, Secret Wars issue 8, you know, it wasn't him in the suit. It was when Eddie Brock was first Venom, you know, attacking everything. And
that was 300, right?
So yeah, I believe so. Yeah. And I remember reading it and I was just blown away because, you know, this villain, this amazing villain is all Spider-Man's powers. And it's funny because I know I read it, but there was this one scene that I remember the most. And I don't know why it stuck with me all these years. It was when Venom unmasks Peter and he drops his mask into the crowd and then like a random guy picks it up. And he's like, "Oh, look at me, everybody. I'm Spider-Man. Hey." And he's just goofing off. And then Peter just, you know, flips a web line, grabs the mask. And he's like, "Yep, sorry, need this." And I was just like, wow, you know, but I read it to pieces and we had to throw it out. And that's always bothered me because, again, I didn't know, you know, but I still have one or two of the books that I have this one book, and I got to tell Chris about this because it's actually a Spider-Man comic that I still have. That it's tattered. It's tattered so badly, but I still own it, and I still read it every once in a while. I'm like, yeah, this is nice. I can't help it. I was really rough on my books. As a kid, you don't care, you know.
Now, Drew, with that Venom, I know it's probably not the same story, but it definitely tied in with it. Just a memory. I'm trying to pinpoint the book. So when Spider-Man realizes that he has a huge issue with the symbiote, and he goes to the Fantastic Four, and they get it off, and it's in the cage and everything. Is there a thing where like he has to go back to his apartment with a bag over his head?
Yes, there actually is, and I'm glad you brought that up because I actually have a funny story about that later. Yes, he needed a suit, so he borrowed a spare Fantastic Four costume with no boots, and he could have a mask. So Johnny Storm put a bag over his head, and he was the Amazing Bag Man. In true Johnny fashion. I believe he even had a "kick me" sign on the back because, you know, Johnny Storm being the prankster he is. Right. So yes, and that has been a joke costume throughout the years. And I even think I've seen it at a convention in photos, one or two. And side note, that has always been a version of Spider-Man I've secretly wanted to do for years, simply because, you know, just so you can make people laugh. And then on top of it, because of Spider-Verse, I'm like, it's my time to shine, kids.
I think there's a Funko of that as well.
There is. They embrace the absurdity. But yeah, so now everybody, thank you for comic book nostalgia with Splash Pages. Now Boba Fett.
Well, speaking of nostalgia, you know, this book came out in 1983.
Is it time for the time machine?
It's time for the time machine. I need to do like the waves. You know, I'm.
We do the Wayne's World for you. You know, we do. Come on.
Well, thank you. It's appreciated. Here we go. To get us in the mood for tonight's awesome episode, we're gonna set our time travel circuits back, all the way back to 1983.
Captain, time travel circuit set for 1983.
It was a crazy time of fashion and innocence. And here we go in 1983. I'm going to get my special hat, time traveling hat on. And here we go. Way back in 1983, gas cost only $1.16 a gallon. Milk was $1.35 a gallon. And you could buy a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom townhouse for only $47,000. In this year, Mario Bros. Debuts in arcades in Japan, and we're not talking about Super Mario Brothers. We're talking about the OG Mario Brothers 2-player, 1 level, where he had the black screen, the green pipes, the turtles. It was rage back then. The game was designed by Shigeru Miyamoto, who did Legend of Zelda and Donkey Kong, and Gunpei Yokoi, who also created Metroid and Game Boy. In 1983, Fraggle Rock debuted. It was one of the very first original programs by a little channel called HBO. The final episode of MASH aired with a record-breaking 125 million that tuned in to see the 4077th breakdown. It broke down camp and said goodbye to Hawkeye, Radar, and Potter. MASH held on to that record of most watched TV show until the 2010 Super Bowl. In other entertainment news for 1983, some of the top movies were Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, Tootsie, Trading Places, and Superman 3, along with War Games. Top shows for 1983, as we mentioned, were MASH. But also in 1983, they decided to do After MASH, and that's when people realized, I think we're done with MASH. TV's Bloopers and Practical Jokes debuted. It was a precursor to all the YouTubers you hate nowadays. Also Knight Rider, and one of my favorites, Hardcastle and McCormick. That was a classic. So, if you're a kid during that time, which I was, we woke up early on Saturday mornings to catch some awesome cartoons. During that year, we were able to watch Flintstone Funnies, Plastic Man, Pac-Man, and Rubik the Amazing Cube Hour, which, yes, those were actual cartoons. Who'd make a cartoon about a Rubik's Cube? Crazy. It's like, who would make forget it. And also Thundar the Barbarian that year. Finally, comics in 1983, it was the Bronze Age of comics. We're getting towards the tail end of the Bronze Age there. Some of the top selling comics that year were Uncanny X-Men 236 and Amazing Spider-Man 241. But looking at what comics are selling for nowadays, here's some issues you should have picked up if you can time travel back to 1983. Amazing Spider-Man 238 was the first appearance of Hobgoblin and sold for a whopping $2,700 for a mint copy. Thor 337, the first appearance of Beta Ray Bill. I had a copy, but somebody stole it. I'm still pissed off about that. A mint copy has gone for almost $3,000. And Spider-Man 239 with the first Spidey vs. Hobgoblin has gone for a measly $1,250. So there you have it there. It's 1983 in a nutshell. I hope you enjoyed this little, history. And here we go. We're going to go back to Splash Pages. How was that? Was that okay?
Wow. That was both amazing and emotionally hurtful all at the same time.
What he said.
What was hurtful about it?
That you could buy a 2-bedroom townhouse for $47,000.
Yeah.
That I had all those comics, and then during my divorce, I had to sell all those comics on the cheap, and that really hurts.
Oh.
But it is a new day.
It is. It is.
And it is definitely not 1983 anymore.
No. But we're going to talk about, so our main book tonight is going to be Star Wars from Marvel, because Star Wars changed hands a couple times, but this is the original run from 1983. It is issue 81. The issue is Jawas of Doom. Writer was Mary Jo Duffy. Penciler was Ron Frenz. Inker was Tom Palmer and Tom Mandrake. Letterer was Joe Rosen. Colorist was Glynis Wine. And cover artist was Tom Palmer as well.
A lot of those people are pretty notable in comics. I mean, Ron Frenz would later be part of the duo that would do Spider-Girl, the alternate story of Mayday Parker from the MC2 universe. Yeah, so that's notable. Tom Palmer is still in work today. He just inked a lot. I think one of the most notable things is that he also inked a lot of Mark Millar and John Romita Jr.'s Kick-Ass.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he did that. He's done. He pops up on a lot of stuff. So, for an older gentleman, still gets good work and whatnot. I think it's also just amusing that Star Wars has changed his hands so much, because it was Marvel, and then it was Dark Horse for a while, which I remember, and then it's back to Marvel, and oh my God, I mean, they've really taken it and run. There are so many Marvel Star Wars comics now. Like,
Yeah, and it gets confusing because, like, how many versions of Darth Vader are there now? Like not the character, but like the series. They've had like 3 or 4 different series that were just like Darth Vader.
I think what's also interesting is that the comics have been used to really fill in a lot of gaps in continuity, which has a lot of times been good. But I also think, again, it's confusing because, again, how many this time that Luke fought Darth Vader, it wasn't the first time they met. There was another time. And I think it's also nice because it's introduced certain characters like Dr. Afra, who has become a huge character, very popular in the Star Wars community. But you have that, and then you have things like War of the Bounty Hunters, which is the biggest crossover titles. And it was like 24 parts. And I'm like, it's like the same way I felt about one of those X-Men crossovers. Like, no one is reading. Like, I'm not reading 24 comics. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Dr. Afra because during that series is actually when they introduced Black Kirsten,
Exactly,
which is in Boba Fett right now.
Exactly. So, again, sometimes it's just a matter of time before certain characters make that transition, which is always great because to me that means the writers really are fans who, want to pay tribute to where Star Wars has been, which is great. But at the same time, I like seeing new characters because it's just, you have new identities for people to connect with and be inspired to, instead of, hi, we're just doing what comics a lot of times do. We're just going to rehash what you already know, but new face. So if I'd like to propose something, it's if all possible, each one of us can kind of cover one of, I guess, the escape of Boba Fett. So Leo, since you have a very personal connection to this, I think you got to cover this one. Rich, you can cover the reemergence in Dark Empire 4, and since it's fresh in my mind, I'll take the Book of Boba Fett.
Okay. We also have Tag and Bink as well, which we can cover separately because that was it's just a comedic storyline.
Well, we can cover that. That's something all three of us can cover. So Leo, take it away.
Yeah, so we won't go page for page, but just a personal story for this issue here. I believe I was either in 3rd or 4th grade, and for somebody was leaving Star Wars comics on my desk. I'd go into school, and there'd be a Star Wars comic on my desk. I still to this day have no idea who was doing this for me.
You had a secret admirer who would leave Star Wars comics on your desk?
Yeah.
God,
Yeah.
you lucky son of a bitch.
And this was one of the issues, and I just I got to see Return of the Jedi at the theater, and this happens right after Return of the Jedi, and I was mesmerized. I was like, wait a second, there's a movie, and now I can read a story about it. What happens? This is amazing, and
Jaggy.
I'd have to say, other than like somebody gave me some Batman Brave and the Bold, this was really my first introduction to comics. And yeah, this is I'd have to say this is where I fell in love with the comics. Here is this issue.
Nice.
But obviously, it takes place literally right after Return of the Jedi. They're still on Endor, and Han needs some cash. And he decides to go back to Tatooine, and we get, a vision of, Boba Fett escaping the Sarlacc. And going by this story here, as a little kid, I thought he was like in the Sarlacc, showing the him covered with the sand and everything. But essentially, he got spit out by the Sarlacc.
Yeah,
he was just, laying in the sand for a while and just got covered with sand. And the Jawas just come and dig him out. How did you guys read that? Is that what you pictured as well?
I pretty much that's what I saw. I think for me it was like I felt like the Sarlacc pit was a bit more formidable here, because in that at that time, it was just a giant pit with some tentacles on it. Later versions would kind of re-edit it, and it's still kind of arguable whether those edits actually helped or worked. This to me was like the fact that it can literally pull birds from the sky.
Yeah.
To me, I was like, wow, that's kind of fucking cool, man. And it's just, I also love the idea that it spit out Boba Fett. Like, I was like, no, I don't want to digest you for 30,000 years. Like, go away. Like,
yeah, and he, we don't know how long he was in there or how long he was just, laying in the sand. But the Sarlacc even, devours at the end the sand crawler.
We got to pace ourselves, man.
Oh, sorry. I was just I figured not go page for page over it, but
yeah, but I think it's also nice because, like you said, they've been following similar stories in Book of Boba Fett. Especially with the fact that we know that through Boba's flashbacks that his armor does get stripped by Jawas, which, as we know, would later be acquired by that sheriff in that town, played by Timothy Oliphant. I don't remember his name. I've always called him Boba Sheriff. And then later on, Boba would end up reclaiming his armor. But in this case, he has no idea who he is. So he has also no idea who Han Solo is. And he should really not like Han, because it's kind of his fault that he ended up getting chewed up and spit out.
Well, maybe not if you read Tag and Bink, which we'll talk about that a little after. Yeah, it's goofy, but it's Han even tries to save him at the end, and he comes out of his daze and realizes that he doesn't like Han, and the sandcrawler ends up back in not back in, but it gets devoured by the Sarlacc, which is just insane. Instead of a burp, you get a bip.
And Han tried to save him.
He did. He
gave him a shot. Effort. But no, old rivalries were just too important. Back to the Sarlacc. Back to the Sarlacc. Sarlacc. Back to the
Sarlacc. Rich, what did you think of this issue?
I liked it. It was really cool. Like, even on the cover, they did a really good adaptation of Harrison Ford. Less of Princess Leia Organa over there, but somewhat close. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was great. Just touching base and seeing what happened, like you said, after Jedi. I thought they played Han a little goofy in the comic. But I guess when you really think about it, he's a little goofy in the original Star Wars anyway.
Yeah.
So I guess that kind of tied in. But I don't know who this guy was, and I don't know what they were doing with his face. But yeah, I was like, is this a comedic comic at first? And I don't know. I was confused for a minute.
Yeah, that was a bit goofy.
A little rough.
Yeah. Drew, you have any thoughts on this before we move on?
No, I felt like this was a logical fill in the gap after the death of the destruction of the Death Star 2. Han is trying to find purpose again. He's a smuggler, he's a pirate. Now he's kind of left to pick up the pieces of what's left, and one of those is that fact that a lot of people still don't like him, and he's still owes a lot of money to people. And just because Jabba is dead doesn't mean that someone still might not collect a debt or hold a grudge. So, and again, it kind of logically explained what happened to Boba Fett, but also in some ways it kind of brought him back and then put him back in the pit for like when someone else could somehow find a way for him to escape. So it was almost like we're continuing the story, but we're keeping the legend, if that makes sense.
It does. I just want to bring up, I'm going to bring up our thumbnail, but, just looking at the two images side by side, with, you could see where they definitely took inspiration for that,
Sure.
Yeah.
Even him having his own flashbacks about what happened, and looking at, the flashbacks of the show. But yeah, very, very, similar.
Very on brand.
Yeah. Let me bring up the Dark Empire. And I know it was only essentially just like one frame in the beginning. But Rich, I'm going to let you take this on.
Take on me. Do, 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 do. Sorry, I'm very singy today. So.
All right. So we got Star Wars Dark Empire. And yeah, I think I read the wrong one.
Oh,
Oh boy.
Yeah. Well, is this Luke going bad? Did I read the right one?
this is Luke going bad.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I did read the right one. I'm sorry. I was confused. Yeah. So we open up to we got Boba here, and of course he's chasing down Han, and yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I read this one kind of fast. And this is probably the one that I absorbed the least. And when you guys were like, "Oh, that's the one he's going to do," I'm like, "Oh, I think that's the one I read the least."
Well, to be honest, I did say it was only like the first page that we needed to pay attention, because essentially, so in preparation for tonight's episode, I was going over all the areas where Boba Fett survived a Sarlacc, and I think I counted 5. This being, one of them that is talked about, but essentially it's just, Boba Fett, basically he just says the Sarlacc found me somewhat indigestible solo, which is, it's still within canon of issue 81, because essentially that's what happened.
Right. So point being, he could have just escaped again. It could have just kind of retconned his initial escape. I just think for me with this one, this was kind of like Boba and his buddies. You know what I mean? Like, you always think of Boba Fett as a lone wolf. He doesn't really play well with others. And he has this impression of being this mythical badass. You know what I mean? Like, you think Boba Fett and you're like, oh man, like Boba Fett. And you see this one, he's kind of like a bumbling idiot. And I don't know if it's more because of the company he keeps, who I'm pretty sure I have 1 or 2 of their action figures, because there was a time I did collect Star Wars. Because the whole thing, at the end when they're chasing Han, and then they get caught up in like the force field, and Slave 2, which is still boss, which is still like one of the coolest spaceships ever.
Oh, hell yeah.
I was curious about that. Like, what happened to Slave 1 that now there's a Slave 2?
Honestly, I don't remember. I honestly don't. I mean, like I said, I kind of, because I didn't read more of the Dark Empire, I kind of skimmed a little bit of this because, again, I'm primarily focusing on Boba. Like, I tried reading some of it. It was like, okay, Luke bad. He and under influence of Empire. Friends concerned. I'm like, yeah, this is
right.
Fine. But then at the end with Boba and his buddies, and then Slave 2 getting damaged, and then you have like them kind of flying off panel, and it just was very cartoony to me, like, curses Boba Fett. We should have, it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's like Team Rocket blasting off again, but it was very, like, oh, darn it, Boba, we shouldn't have done that force field. Shut up. It's my ship. No one invited you. It was very goofy to me.
Yeah, and you would think that the Emperor coming back and being alive would feel more impactful. But boy, it just felt like another
Yeah, it's again, it's just like death in comics. I was like, evil always pulls back. Evil will always remake that cameo. I mean, how even years later, young Palpatine, and I'm just like, oh crap, here we go. Like, you're dead. You got thrown down a trash chute, my dude. Like, it's like, now I survived. I'm like, oh my god. It's like, are we near the end of the movie? It's like, are we near the end of the movie? And it's just, I could just feel it in me. It's like, good. Let the hate flow through you.
strike him down.
Yes. Let's strike him down. Enjoy. Yeah, exactly. And it's just, lightning bolt hands.
You guys do that way too well.
Years of cackling as you pop up a hoodie, my dude. Just good. I've frequently said that in my head whenever a friend of mine starts going on a critical nerd rant. I'm like, good. Let the hate flow through you. This like was fine, and then this was just comedy stuff. Like I've never heard of these guys. Apparently, like this is a big deal. Like this is just adding more ridiculousness to stuff. Like, I mean, honestly, this has been a show I would probably watch the first episode and then just meh. But the fact that these guys knock out Boba Fett, steal his armor, and basically just fuck with it the whole time was just ridiculous. And they can't even say his name right. It was, honestly, in all seriousness, it was funny. It was light. It's, it's nice to see somebody kind of calling out the ridiculous holes that are in Star Wars, because there are so many. But it's just, again, this to me was a little humanizing of Boba Fett, because again, he's built up to be this badass, and then you just have him like he's taken down by two idiots. How much of a badass can you be?
And with the storyline, basically, he survived the Sarlacc because it wasn't Boba Fett. It was either Tagger or Bink. It was one of them, and just wearing the suit, and they get saved by Boba Fett's ex-girlfriend.
What's also funny is that that's not the first time in Star Wars that you had something where somebody else would assume the title of Boba Fett. I seem to recall there was another storyline where you had somebody else who literally was rocking the gear, rocking the look, rocking the reputation, and he does it well, but he gets a little too bold and he gets nixed by Boba himself, because he's like, ain't nobody can do me, only me. I'm the only Boba. And I'm like, well, if you're gonna get some Boba, make sure you get a straw. Bubble tea is good, But this was, honestly, Leo, this was funny. It wasn't like, oh my god, I'm gonna recommend this to somebody, but it was amusing. To me, I was just like, this is one of the most accurate things of when two nobodies who are fans get just caught up in Star Wars drama. That's how I would say that.
Well, like the scene here where they're going around, it's like, where's the other elevator? What other elevator? Well, don't look at me. I was following your lead, and they don't want to go back around because they'll look stupid. That's something all of us would do. It's
extra goofy and fun.
Yeah. They covered Phantom Menace.
Yes, they did.
But I didn't know this existed, Leo, and this was interesting to find out something like this exists.
Yes, same here. I only learned about it during my research, trying to figure out, all the incarnations where Boba Fett survived. Exactly. The final part is, Tag and Bink again surviving because the pole gets stuck in its maw. I didn't notice there's something in the sand there. What is that? Is that like that's? I don't know what that is. Buried there. What do you guys think that is?
No idea.
Helmet of some sort.
Eh.
So, and I guess we'll just get to, and then the thing that's freshest in my mind, which I think is the best way to explain him getting out, is similar to Star Wars 81, which is the Book of Boba Fett issue, episode 1, where we find him somehow still alive, being slowly digested, covered in goop. He's still alive, and he gets out because some unfortunate stormtrooper who we don't know is also gestating inside this thing, which looks like a giant slimy esophagus. He gets a little oxygen and, flamethrowers his way out, literally pushing himself out to suddenly die, get stripped like a fancy car, and left to bake in the sun. That to me was just, I was like, you know what? This is the most logical, because the guy literally pulled himself out of the worst way to go. So
now, Leo, since I knew we were doing this, I wanted to do a little research because I remember when Book of Boba and his cameo, or several cameos in Mandalorian, the actor, I believe, is pronounced Temurian Morrison or Tamarin Morrison.
yeah,
Now, and I remember they said, "Oh, this is the original guy," and I'm like, it didn't pop in my head because I remember the original guy was Jeremy Bulloch, who played in the original movie.
right.
But what I found out in looking up, and it was very confusing because on IMDb it also says Temurian Morrison in the original. But what I've come to find out is they did a reboot, and when they did the reboot, Temurian Morrison's voice was put in over Jeremy Bulloch's.
Which is ridiculous because you're just establishing this new continuity when it was Jeremy's work in the beginning that should be honored, especially since he passed away, if I'm correct. Leo, he passed away in like 2020,
last
right?
few years,
Yeah, just recently, yeah.
Yeah, so, to me, I was just like, wow, way to just kind of insult someone's work. I mean, when he was still going to conventions, and I remember there were one or two that I saw he was still at, people were still getting his autograph. Boba Fett has accumulated a really big fan base. It's funny because a lot of the criticisms that I'm seeing about the show, like I'm still of the mind, watch it, make up your own damn mind, is that the show is kind of stripping down the myth, which I just feel is only logical. You know what I mean? Like, Boba Fett was kind of built up to be this badass, and then from a lot of scenes I see, he's getting his ass whooped. And I'm just like, yeah, because he's still a guy. You know what I mean? He's not a god.
Well, he was also very damaged. I mean, that's why he spent all the time in the Bacta tank.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the other thing. He's, again, he's a clone. We don't know anything about how Star Wars clones are. There can't be like Marvel clones where you can just somehow pop out of a tank and suddenly be okay until you're not, because the story has to have something. If there's one criticism I do agree with, is they really should. He needs to keep his helmet on more. Like, one of the things about Mando was that when we saw his face, it was amazingly significant, not just because of what we understood of the Mandalorians, but because he didn't. So to see that was, and now to see Boba, who technically isn't really a Mandalorian according to their rules, which, again, I'm, comic book, thing rules. So I'm sorry. You know what, Leo? You interject, because I'm talking as a sort of fan. You're the bigger fan here.
Well, from my understanding, and I'm not a super fan myself, but from my understanding, you have true Mandalorians from Mandalore, and then you have the Mandalorians through the religion.
Right.
So with the as we learned, most of Mandalore was destroyed, and all that's left is Mandalorians through the religion, and you
Right.
have two different sects. You have the ultra zealots that you can't remove your mask, and you have the other group. What's their name?
Led by Bo-Katan.
Bo-Katan, yeah,
Bo-Katan,
Bo-Katan,
who is now getting a show,
yeah.
which I still don't know how I feel, like because I'm starting to get that feeling. I was like, guys, a couple of shows, fine, but not every character needs a show. I mean, am I excited about the Obi-Wan series? Yes, because Ewan McGregor it still looks like he just did episode 3 yesterday. So props to him. It's also funny that the way he looks, he's kind of rocking a Jesus look, but whatever. But at the same time, it's just it's the same way I feel about a lot, like comics, that they can't help themselves. They have to feel the need to flood the market, and then they wonder why some of their babies don't do good. I was like, you can't just pump them full of sugar and then expect them to perform every night. Like, no. So I don't know. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, well, that's the Disney formula.
Yep. Run it until it burns out.
Yeah, but they don't think that Star Wars is ever going to run out. That's the issue.
Well,
They think that Leo will be there no matter how bad it is.
that's true.
Hey,
Leo just might be there for all of them.
I have to tell you, I started last episode of Mandalorian, or not Mandalorian, Book of Mandalorian.
Book of
Boba.
Mhm.
That was pretty much the Mandalorian episode.
Yeah. When he, and spoiler, when they're making the whatever they made for his little friend, that whole scene, I teared up a little bit. It's
There you go.
it just brings so much, that final episode where they brought in Luke Skywalker and Grogu goes with Luke, and just knowing that Mando's gonna go find them.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's just, I don't know. It's very emotional for me anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Leo, they got your heartstrings. They're like, oh,
yeah.
okay, Leo, we have Grogu. You want the Grogu. I mean, I love him too. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, but Disney knows how to pull at the heartstrings. For anybody, for any genre. They have our nostalgia, and they know we're gonna pay for it.
Yeah, but every once in a while, they do still swing and miss, because I gotta say, I did not love Eternals.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing how I feel about it when I finally get there. I think again, I have a list every month or so. I'm trying to, bang out one Marvel thing I've been meaning to do, because I would initially think, oh, I can do it in a week, and I'm like, I have a lot going on. A week is a lot. Like maybe one a month, because right now I wanted to finally do Black Widow, but I'm also with Angie. I'm watching season 2 of The Witcher, which. Still, I got to be honest with you, I love that show, and for one specific reason, I love that show, and it's biased, but it's very simple, because I feel that Geralt of Rivia is essentially the same character as Hellboy in some way. He goes around, he beats up monsters, he can't stop cursing. He is just too old for this shit. He's always paired with somebody. Everyone around him dies. He had a fucked up childhood. He knows something bad is coming, but he's like, it's not my problem. But eventually he's going to have to deal with it. And his portrayal is beloved by almost everybody they see. Like when you see Hellboy, you think Ron Perlman. When you see Geralt of Rivia, you're like, Henry Cavill, this is your role, my dude. Like, and some people are like, oh, what about Superman? And it's like, yes, don't get me wrong. I'm starting to warm up to his Superman, not in a how everybody now is suddenly a fan of Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, and I'm just like, it's so funny that you all suddenly changed but a couple of months ago you couldn't stand this, but now it's like, now it's cool, and I'm just like, okay, I see you.
That's so interesting, Drew, because the way you just described it sounds like something I'd love. But I could not. I made it through 1.5 episodes, and I was like, I can't watch this show. It's horrible. But the way you're describing it sounds like it's amazing.
Well, it's for me. It's just a story. I mean, I've never played the games, so I'm walking in. Yeah, I'm walking in blind. I just, again, that's the context I saw it in. You know what I mean? And yeah, that's basically it. And I'm taking it as it is. And then the next show we're watching together is catching up to Karate Kid, Cobra Kai, 4th season. Got to do that. And then, like I said, though, other Marvel things. And it's not just Marvel shows I'm trying to catch up. It's also other things. Like there's the stuff on Hulu, And I still really want to say that I still think we should watch Hitmonkey and then we review Hitmonkey, as in compared to the comics, because you will not find a funnier book than when Hitmonkey was introduced in Deadpool. Like, Jesus, it is hilarious. But back to my point, I'm gonna give Boba Fett a shot. You know what I mean? The first episode I liked. I just really wish he'd keep his helmet on more. That's just my thing, because when he has a helmet on, I'm like, that's Boba Fett. When he has the helmet off, I'm like the artist formerly known as Boba Fett. And I'm like, it's kind of like how you had in Pitch Black, you had Vin Diesel's Riddick was constantly wearing his, goggle glasses, and when he took them off, you got the eye thing going. You're like, wow, that's super cool. But I feel like in Chronicles of Riddick, which is still a great movie, but it's just like he's always like putting them on and then taking them off and putting them on and taking it off. And then when it was just Riddick again, you're like, okay, we're back, because we're kind of doing a reboot of Pitch Black. It was like, and then suddenly he's got them on again, and I'm like, okay, like, can we just? It's on or off. There's no in between. I'm good.
Well, I hope you end up enjoying the series, because I totally disagree with the haters. I love this show. I love the way they're setting him up. I'm tired of guys being such badasses, like they can't get punched in the face once in a while. That's boring to me at this point.
No, I mean, no, but
I said, and I like what they're building, that he's trying to be the, he's trying to take Jabba's place, but doing it, he's not trying to rule with fear. He's trying to rule with respect, and he's got to find that line, whether that really works or not.
Right.
And I could be reading way too deep into this. I don't see it as him trying to build an empire. You okay there, Drew?
Yeah,
no, there's a mute button, right?
I've seen on the show. Drew snotting it up.
Okay, so
go ahead, Leo. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't see it as him trying to build like this criminal empire. I see as him trying to essentially start his own family, his own tribe. He lived with a tribe, and we don't know for how long, but from what it sounds like, it was a very long time that he lived with the Sand People, and he had that that feeling of unity with them. So again, like I said, I'm probably reading way too much into it, but I have a feeling that he's trying to build, his own tribe.
Right. And Leo, interestingly enough, in your 1983 flashback, you had the movie Flashdance. Now, that the main actress from Flashdance, which I can't think of what her name is right now, she is the lady that runs the casino in Book of Boba Fett.
Really?
Whoa, no way.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Makeup is fantastic when they do it right.
Oh, speaking of makeup, and this is totally, are you guys watching Royal Gemstones?
No. I heard it's good.
No, it's a new comedy, right?
I heard it's good.
I think they're on season 3 or 2.
What? Really?
3 or 2. Well, no, Leo, 2.
2.
2.
This week's episode, I don't know how it has to be a mixture of makeup and CGI, but the entire episode is a young John Goodman.
How good?
Like he stepped out off the. It's like he was on Roseanne, but minus the weight.
Is it Roseanne?
It's Roseanne John Goodman, but super thin. It's but not like little snippets. The whole episode. It is crazy.
And they used his voice?
Oh, it's him. It's him. I don't know how they did it.
Right.
But
they Tony Starked him?
They Tony Starked him for the whole episode. It is fucked up.
Hey, listen. Listen, if they can make Alfred Molina look just like he did out of Spider-Man 2, and the same thing with anybody else there, no, Rich, that's not a spoiler, okay? You already saw him. They admitted that they used de-aging technology to make Alfred look like he did back in the day when he did Spider-Man. That's not a spoiler or anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was getting nervous.
No. But
I'm just still waiting on that good copy, Leo.
Well, there's a semi-good one.
Yeah, I don't want to watch a semi-good one.
I know.
He wants that pure, uncut Spider-Man. Okay.
Listen, I waited all this time for that shitty ass Eternals movie. I could wait for Spider-Man. It's just supposed to be really good.
It'll be available this month, from what I know.
It was well worth waiting for a good copy of Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Yes.
Yeah. The right away passion that I used to have 5-10 years ago, I don't give a shit anymore. I'm gonna see it when I'm gonna see it. And that's that.
Hey, listen. Okay, there's been. I used to love going to midnight premieres of movies. Like I still remember when I saw Spider-Man 3. It was a midnight premiere. Should have just stayed at home and slept. But I went midnight to see Ghostbusters. That was worth it. And it wasn't actually correct. It wasn't even a midnight. It was actually a 7:20 showing, which is even better. Because by the time it was midnight, I was already asleep. As you get older, you're like, I can't.
Well, post-COVID, we'll get back there again. It's and you can still do it in your old age. I've done it recently. It's you go to a midnight showing and you just drink extra coffee in the morning.
Leo, listen, I'm going to say this very nicely, okay? We're not talking about you going back to killing snakes, okay? It's just going to see a goddamn movie, all right?
That's what I'm talking about. But I don't get sleep anyway, so it's just, it's the norm.
He's still scared of the great anaconda coming for him. But
he's got his Darth Vader contraption every night to strap on.
Yeah.
Welcome to Splash Pages. I forgot to clean that this morning.
There's still water in the pipe.
Help me, please.
Actually, you know what sucks is if I run out of water in the dehumidifier and like it starts to burn the plastic and I'm like breathing in burnt plastic. This
sounds like such a it's a legitimate concern, but it sounds like such a first world problem.
Oh, it is. It is.
Yeah. If I don't put the water in the dehumidifier, then I'm just breathing in plastic, honey, and that's just not great. Like, keep a lid on that, okay? Skip to do. Bye.
But it's better than holding my breath in the middle of the night and then throwing my heart out of whack again. It's just
everything, and everything comes back to the heart, man. Before you know it, Rich, if we all go out to dinner, Leo, be like, you know what? I feel like if I pay part of the bill, it could just agitate my heart. So can you guys do it? Thanks.
Me and Joe will be like, I don't want it. Here's the money. Here. We need the monkey behind the board. We need the monkey.
Yeah, exactly. And if I just put the money, I'd be like, let me just slide the money forward like such. Let me just.
Yeah. We have all that splash pages cash. We're rolling.
Just $5.
There we go. I'm not that type of person though. I'm the type of person that like sneaks away and like pays the bill, and I have to use the bathroom.
Oh no, you're an old school publisher. If we were the talent, you're like, no, lunch is on me. That's fine. Whatever you want. If you want the lobster, order the lobster. You want that $500 bottle of champagne that clearly has a fish in it once? Go for it. Like Bubala, your house, my house. Like l'chaim, Yeah, I used to do a lot of that whenever I'd eat out with friends. I was like, no, I got it. And then later on, I was like, shit, I gotta stop doing this.
Yeah. I hear you.
I would just tip the waiters.
Of course you would. You've been them. I know, I've been them too. So I do the same thing. So I guess, how do we rate these? This is really like, we have four different sources. How do we?
Well, we can look at just issue 81, or we can look at how well did they translate. Like if we're looking at like when we did Hawkeye versus the show, and that issue, how much it pulled from the show, from the comic into the show, was this an accurate representation?
Okay. Or if anything, we would just say our favorite death. I mean, I already know what mine is, but okay. I felt Star Wars 81 was definitely, in my mind, a blueprint of what they did for the show. So I would, I'd say that Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are, of course, doing exactly the kind of work we learn to appreciate from them with Mandalorian. It's where we draw a line of realism and Star Warsery while also keeping in line with things that the fans would appreciate, like these little comic book Easter eggs or references. Because I'm going to be honest with you, seeing Boba in the sand was literally just like him popping out of the sand after escaping in the show. Like spot on.
I did forget to send you guys one thing though. The Patton Oswalt speech.
Oh yeah, I've seen it before. Yeah. That's amazing.
Parks and Rec.
Yeah. He must have been in heaven when that came out.
The fact that was all improvised is probably one of the finest moments that you'll ever see in television. The fact that they were like, just go. And it's like, the gloved hand of Boba Fett pulls himself out of the Sarlacc pit, and then he flies away. I'm like, oh my God, I
can't. And Leo, I'll bring that back around too, because the one retaining thing of the Eternals was Patton Oswalt.
Yes.
All right.
And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. I already know about the Ebony Knight's fighting partner, so that was already spoiled to me. But until I see him, I don't care.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I know. So, so I think it's just my concluding thought is that we're at a point where I feel like we're finally deconstructing the myths of Star Wars, and I think that if it's just handled well, it should be good, and we just have to accept that not everybody's going to like that. Mandalorian is still one of the rare Star Wars thing where I feel most people, because you can't say all, but I would say 90% of people I've talked to about Mandalorian have very much given it high praise. Even people who aren't Star Wars fans thoroughly enjoyed it. So I feel like that's always now going to be the bar for Star Wars TV. And unfortunately, Boba isn't the Mando, which is supposed to be a good thing. And hopefully the rest of the show proves it a worthy installment. I've only had one episode in, but I thought it was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't get the hate from it. You know, it is a slow burn. You
Mhm.
know, and it certainly isn't Mandalorian, but you know, it's good Star Wars story. You know, and now he has a little kid seat for Grogu when he finds him. So
There you go. But I think also just kind of what it is that Mando was very much dipped into that samurai movies, westerny vibe of Star Wars. And I feel that Boba is still in that in a way. But again, you're fleshing out this character that's kind of accomplished this legendary mythos status. So, you know, good for you there, sir. Got that Ecto One
Ecto-1
popcorn bucket. Listen, that was a hard commodity when that came out, man. That became a real seller.
they're still shipping them, and I saw a picture the other day where apparently somebody was pissed off when they were painting it because the paint job.
Are you talking about? Yeah, you're talking about the cheetah Ecto one. You know, the spots. Yeah, I was like, yeah, somebody that was a rage paint. It was just, fuck it, I'm done. I'm going on break.
I'm sick of making these damn things. Damn internet.
Exactly. So, like I said, I don't really think we can do crowbars or whatever for this kind of thing. Which
no, but it's
yeah,
it's a good discussion, you know, and you know, we can definitely, you know, give our thoughts on if it was represented well or not. What about you, Rich?
Yeah,
oh, sorry.
I mean, I agree. It was the comic gave a decent representation, like you said, spitting out the Sarlacc pit. Where you said he was covered in sand. See, it's interesting. I thought he was some kind of like membrane from being vomited out. But now seeing it compared to that picture that you had from the promoting the show with them both together, it probably was sand.
Well, I mean, it could be. I mean, obviously, he was covered in some sort of acid as well. So,
right,
you know,
he was being digested.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I loved the Boba Fett show. I'm not going to ruin anything for Drew, but I mean, there's quite an expanse. I mean, you've saw 1 and 2, maybe in 3 and 4, where they really expand into the lore of Star Wars that we've never seen before. And I find that particularly fascinating, especially the way that they do it. But that's just me. And I love the show. I don't see any problems with it. I think they're doing a great job building a backstory and a history to an interesting character that's fascinated Star Wars fans for years. So I'm got an open mind. So far, I enjoy what they're doing. But if they do something shitty, I'm going to let you know too, because that's the way I am. I'm always going to give you the real deal, buddy boy.
Yeah.
And they're tying it into the cartoons as well, which is, you know, pretty cool. It's just because Disney wants you to go watch more stuff on Disney Plus.
Yeah. Well, now that Marvel has linked the ability to link everything in a map to eventually come back to a eclipse or triumph or end game, if you will, they're going to just keep doing it, just with different properties. And us as nerds, I mean, how many of us are watching the next day on YouTube Easter eggs of whatever show we just watched?
Oh, hell yeah.
This clown right here.
Do we know yet what the next show is? Is it Moon Knight?
Yes.
Or She-Hulk.
It's either Moon Knight or She-Hulk, but I have to say that Moon Knight trailer looks awesome. And I'm very optimistic about how that'll go. It's a very interesting
the Mark Spector multiple personalities that got me excited as well, Drew.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm also excited about She-Hulk. Especially since they're taking cues from John Byrne's run, which was very breaking the fourth wall. You're gonna have Abomination is back. Tim Roth is pumped. He said that he originally did the role in the Incredible Hulk, like for his kids. So now it's like I think his grandkids are like, oh, okay, like, so you're a superhero, and he's like, not really. And then I also just love that when seeing the trailer, I was like, oh, well, look at that. Mark Ruffalo is really leaning into his Bill Bixby wardrobe. So yeah, so that's good.
Looks like Moon Knight is next. That's March 30th.
Okay.
Guys, I gotta fix something. I'll be right back. I'm sorry.
Okay. That means there's going to be a delay, right? Because there's only 2 episodes left, and then episode in between. There has to be something else. Okay, so if let me look at a calendar. Okay, so 2nd and 9th is going to end on the 9th. Normally there's nothing the week after. So yeah, 23rd, 2nd, 9th, 16th, 23rd. So they got 4 weeks between the series.
Bam.
We just figured out. So there's going to be 4 weeks in between the end of Boba Fett and the start of Moon Knight.
Okay.
So what are they going to fill it with?
Nothing.
Another anime?
Yeah.
That's not too far from the truth, probably.
I enjoyed Bad Batch. Did you check that out, Leo?
I did, yeah.
Drew, did you ever get around to that?
No, I probably will eventually.
Okay, it's on the list.
There's
ever growing.
You might want to check it out sooner than later because there's a possibility one of the characters may make it into Boba.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Actually, maybe more than one. But there's a high possibility for one, at least. Right, Rich?
Could be. I thought the most recent episode, there was a large character that was very similar, but again, that guy was a Mandalorian, so that didn't make a ton of sense.
I'm talking about a character in the family sense.
Oh, okay.
Somebody's sibling.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
So, all right. Well, I guess we'll just. I don't really think there's anything more we can talk about with this. So, I guess. Do we know what we're doing next week?
We do not. We will discuss that. But let's wrap things up. And
the
then
mystery continues.
I know. I want to thank everybody for watching this fine evening. Definitely check the show notes up above or down below, depending on where you're watching or listening to us. And with that, Drew, where do you like people interacting with you?
I don't. But if you have to, I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. Ghostbusterman 1984. Don't worry, you'll hear that again. I'm on Screen Rant. I do a lot of stuff. Look up Drew Mello Screen Rant. I do a lot of stuff here. I'm generally busy, but I swear to you, it's not that I don't care. I'm just tired. But if you message me, I'll probably say hi. Probably.
Hi. Rich.
Well, you can find me on Facebook as Rich Davis, and you can DM me like Justin Cooper dick pics. And you can find me on the gram, Ghostbusterman 1984, and you can find me here every Tuesday on the award-winning Splash pages.
Awesome. And for me, just Google Leo Pond, but more importantly, follow these awesome people. And with that, catch you guys later. Bye.
Peace out.
Peace out.